I usually avoid filming on my iPhone, but phones are so good these days. You can get some really nice quality footage on your phone, so you don't even have to buy a professional camera. So the first thing that I did is I downloaded the Rush app by Adobe. It's completely free and you don't have to pay for anything. And I created a new project and I went to the capture option and I basically changed my video settings from there. So what you want to do next is select your video format and frame rate. For me, I selected 4K at 25 frames per second. If you want to do slow motion, you can pick higher frames per second, like 50 frames per second or 60 frames per second, or even higher if you're shooting in full HD 1080p. Then I went to my exposure mode and I changed it from auto to pro. I picked a shutter speed of 1/50th of a second, which is double the frame rate. And that's where you want it to be when you're trying to get that filmic look. Then I picked my ISO and I picked the lowest ISO option on the iPhone, and I think it's 34, just because it's really clean when you keep your ISO down. So I'm trying to keep my ISO down so we don't have too much of that grainy sort of unclean footage. The next thing that I did is I set my white balance to 5600 Kelvin, and that is the daylight color temperature to match my light here. Then I put my grid on so I can frame my composition right, and it allows me to sort of break down what's in front of me and put everything in a symmetrical order, or put my subject in the right part of the frame. Now, one thing that I would say is that I personally don't like to use the selfie camera. It's usually not as good as the back camera of the phone, so I tend to use my regular camera. I don't use my selfie camera. I also find that I get quite distracted when I'm looking at myself as I'm talking, but again, it depends on your preference. You can see that I'm filming this in landscape. That's kind of the regular video format for sort of videos, but it's changing rapidly, so you can also shoot in portrait mode. But to demo, I'm just putting it side by side with my professional camera so you guys get to see what I'm doing. Now, a huge part of filmmaking is audio. They say you can have really bad footage, but if your audio is really good, then you can get away with that. So for this, I'm using a wireless lav mic that is currently attached to my proper camera, but you can get lav mics that you can directly attach to your iPhone, and I really recommend these because you can get much cleaner sound if you're much closer to the microphone like I am at the moment. The next thing that you'll need is some sort of support and a phone holder. So a monopod or a tripod off Amazon will do. I've got this monopod off Amazon a while back, and I've got a phone holder with a ball head, and it allows me to rotate the phone in any direction that I want. Now, I am shooting at nighttime, so I'm using some artificial light, but if you are shooting the day and it's bright daylight, you might benefit from getting an ND filter. An ND filter simply allows you to keep your shutter speed at twice your frame rate. Now, the reason we want to keep our shutter speed twice our frame rate is because the higher or the lower it gets, the more unusual the footage will be. So the higher the shutter speed, the more jittery the footage will look, and the lower the shutter speed, the more motion blur you will have in the image. And that can be quite creative, but to get you started, you want to set your shutter speed to twice your frame rate. I'll put some links to some ND filters as well if you're going to be shooting outdoors. Now, you don't have to have professional lights to get really nice footage. All you need to do is sit really close to your biggest light source in the house. So if you have a big nice lamp, a floor lamp maybe, you want to bring that as close as you can to yourself while keeping it out of the frame. So at the moment you can't see that I've got a light here, but it's so close to me that it's giving me a really nice soft light. The closer the light is to the subject, the softer it's going to be, and we want that soft kind of light to kind of hide the blemishes and wrinkles that we have. Alright, so now we have the Filmmaking app, we have a tripod, a monopod with a holder, we know how to set the video settings on the app, and we've got some lighting. Now, if you're shooting indoors, it's a really good idea to sit in front of a really nice big window, so you get that nice big source of light. Once you hit the record button and you're happy with what you've recorded, you save it, and the next step would be to start editing the video. Now, there are quite a few free video editing apps that you can download on your phone. The one that I like to use the most, and most people use these days, is CapCut. It's again completely free and it's quite simple and easy to use. There is another app called VN. I find CapCut to be the easiest and the most simple one to use. You might want to follow a few tutorials before you start kind of getting used to it, but it's quite simple to use, so I really recommend that. Now, the final tip would be to get as many angles as you can. The reason for that is people usually get bored quite quickly, so if you can snap and change positions or angles, then it gets really interesting and it keeps the viewers engaged. You can also add some B-roll, so every time I'm talking about something specific in this video, I added some B-roll footage of what I'm talking about. Again, this keeps the viewers engaged and it allows you to convey some information in your video. So this has been kind of a simple and quick way to get you started with mobile filmmaking. Obviously we can go deeper and start talking about camera motion and things like that, but I wanted to keep this quite simple to get you started. So if you have any questions, please let me know and I will see you in the next one. Peace.